Okay, so hey everyone, hope everyone's doing good today on this lovely Friday. So my name's Julia. I'm a finance analyst working at Target Global. I started working there in March, so it's basically pretty much been 6 months now. I'm just basically I didn't always start in the financial services industry, so today is basically going to be explaining my journey, basically kind of going into there, especially not taking a traditional route into financial services. So yeah, we could, yeah. So who am I? I'm a part qualified accountant, having worked in corporate finance for over 3 years, and also currently working in financial services for a venture capital firm. So yeah, that's me. That's a short intro. So today I'll be speaking on my career timeline, the different career paths in finance, because you don't always have to take the same route that I did. I'll be basically explaining my first step and experience in the corporate finance world. Also, because I realized not a lot of people know what venture capital is, so I'm going to be explaining what venture capital is and what my role is and consists of, and what the process was like transitioning into venture capital. And I'll also give you guys some interview and application tips. So, because that is kind of the techie part, because yeah, they're a bit ruthless sometimes. And then at the end, you'll be able to ask me any questions that you have. So my career timeline. So in 2015, I joined a non-target university. I remember in college, they used to bang on about, oh yeah, you got to join a Russell Group University, blah, blah, blah. But for me, I just always had that mentality, like, I'll be okay regardless, like no matter what uni I go to, like I know my work ethic, I know my brain, and I know I'll be fine. So yeah, I didn't really go down going to the Oxford and Cambridge unis, no. So after I surrounded myself with like-minded people and started to plan our career path. So obviously in first year, no one's really like serious. So it was in second year. And also that's actually where I met Stephen. We kind of had a moment in second year when we were like, okay, cool, we actually need to make something of ourselves from this university and make sure that we basically end up being good in terms of the corporate world. So kind of surrounding myself with people that had the same mentality, and then we all just started to plan our career paths ourselves. So I ended up graduating with an upper second class degree, which was an exciting time, of course. And after that, planned and gained my entry into corporate finance. Now, what I did, which wasn't obviously the traditional route, when you're in university, a lot of people would do summer internships, which is obviously a good thing because it looks good on your CV. So summer internships or insight weeks or whatever, I actually didn't do that. I just went straight into work. It wasn't a graduate scheme or anything. And when I went, I started working for a startup biotech company. And it was good for me because things that I learned in university from my accounting and finance degree, I was able to apply it firsthand and basically really get to see how the finance processes are built kind of from scratch. So that was good. And then I realized, okay, it's not good enough for me just having my degree, and I actually need to become a chartered accountant. Obviously to finish something that I started, because I had some exemptions from my degree, but for the money, not gonna lie, because yeah, the salaries were looking nice. So yeah, that's so far. So when people hear, finance or the corporate world, people don't realize that there's a lot of paths that you can take. There's a lot, and they all do pay well. So it's just depending on your personality type, the skills that you have, just what you do like and what you don't like. So I would always advise like reading job descriptions and kind of shopping around and thinking, is that a bit of me? I don't know if I like that or what. So you can go into audit, investment banking, hedge funds, private equity companies, venture capital, asset management, corporate finance, wealth management, asset management, and consulting. And I'm sure there's loads more, like new roles get created all the time.
Mm-hmm. And I think like one thing just to add to that as well is that I think whenever you're in uni, you kind of have this perception that you need to have figured out your career before you even go into the working world. But I think it's important to just kind of have an open mind because a lot of these career paths are lucrative in their own right, right? You know, like going to the top in a lot of these career paths, like you will earn a decent amount of money, you will learn a lot kind of thing. So I think as students and stuff and as people that hasn't started working in the working world, it's just trying to understand that you need to approach it with like an open mind basically. So I think that's really important.
Mhm, definitely. So my first step into the corporate world, it was kind of scary because you go from like being in university with everyone being your age mate, so you know it's fine, and also seeing a lot of people like yourself, to now stepping in with like people that are deep in adulting, so you kind of feel like a baby. What I enjoyed was exposure into finance procedures, so all the accounts, everything I was able to see, and it was basically kind of linking back to what I learned at university. So it was kind of like a clicking moment, like, oh, okay, cool, yeah, I did an essay on this, or this was part of my exam, or this, like, it was like basically just seeing everything raw. And obviously from that, I was able to apply my knowledge and gain new skills, because a degree and working is two different things. That's why they say experience is so important, because the skills that you learn on the job are just more like work, they're worth more than kind of your degrees. So I gained a lot of new skills. I got mentorship from my line manager, who was the finance director at the time. So everything that she got wrong along her way, she basically told me like what to do, what not to do. So that was nice. And networking across departments, and also study support, because my exams I have to pay for. So my company basically paid for all of them. What I learned, especially, yeah, so far, is that your career is in your hands and you need to fight for it. So you can't just sit back and expect opportunities or even promotion to come to you. You kind of have to actively work towards it, because there's always going to be somebody, your peers or whatever, basically doing so. So yeah, you just need to fight for your career. Also, having a good manager is so important. It's kind of like, how do you say, like having a work parent, because you're with these people 8 hours a day, probably 40 hours a week. So a good manager and work environment is really good, because it kind of impacts your work ethic and kind of your morale at work. So yeah, that's definitely important. Always think ahead and don't become complacent in your role. So if you're in a role, it's really like, if you secure a new role, obviously it's really good, like well done, but you always need to think, okay, cool, in the next couple of years, where do I want to be? And because nobody ever wants to stay in the same position forever. Like that's the whole point of getting in corporate, you kind of want to climb the ladder. So always think ahead and always kind of map out the steps that you need to take to get to where you need to be. And also networking is important, even if it's a small positive conversation. People always remember like kind of vibes. So if you leave even just a small good impression on somebody, complimenting them or talking to them, asking them about their career and what they've done, that's always helpful to build a network. And of course, social media like LinkedIn definitely helps. And upskilling, always develop your skills, whether it's soft skills or technical skills, always work on them, because they are so, like, they're worth a lot nowadays and companies always need them. So yeah.
And I think that kind of summarizes like everything in totality, just in terms of all the points you went through. Like, you know, upskilling is really important because at the end of the day, these companies pay you based on what you can actually do in the job kind of thing. So the more you can do, the more likely you are going to be able to kind of get ahead kind of thing, you know. So yeah, that's really important.
Yeah. So now I'm going to answer, what is venture capital? The best way that I usually describe it is, imagine Dragon's Den. So you see how people would basically approach these 5 panelists who obviously have a lot of money to basically throw at people. And the person that approaches them needs to basically make sense in what they're selling or what it is that they want the investors to put their money in, because essentially that's what the panelists are, or the dragons as they call them. So with venture capital, it's kind of like both ways. Like we'll seek out companies. Well, my company specifically, we do tech companies. So we'll seek out up and rising tech companies, meet with the founders, and then basically see what they got going on. And if they have potential to grow and have a high value, we'll basically invest into them. And then when they get bought out or when we do decide to sell them, the profits are made and then the investors, they get paid as well.
Nice. And what's like your role as a finance analyst, like in the venture capital firm? Like, what do you do on a day-to-day kind of thing?
Yeah, so there's the different roles. So I basically chose my role according to my personality type. So there's the people that would actually actively look out for these companies and meet with the people. And those people are usually much more social. So I wanted to do finance that obviously added value to the company that I was working for, but kind of like not having to deal with people like face wise. So as a finance analyst, basically looking after the money of the venture capital company which I work for, and also calculating, working out the value of the funds. I'm trying to not use financial jargon, so I'm trying to like break it down. So
That's cool.
working out, so a fund is kind of like a big pot that investors put all their money in. So as a finance analyst, we're basically essentially analyzing and valuing what that money is worth and then how much it grows by, depending on how much a company that we've or the people have invested in is worth. And then when it gets sold, we work out how much we as a company would get and how much the investors would get. And then when everything gets distributed, we know exactly how much they're getting. And also looking after just the general funds of the companies. So I also do corporate accounting. So basically making sure that people and our counterparties are paid at the right time. So accounts payable, receivables, if anybody's heard of it. And yeah, like general liaising. Yeah, so yeah,
Mm.
just a lot of the money of the company we look after.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And do you get involved in like, the companies that your venture capital firm invest in, you get involved in their accounts as well from time to time? Because I know when we were
Yeah.
talking kind of thing, you said you kind of been starting to get involved in that side of things.
Yeah, so we look at their financials. So with the analysts, so there are analysts that actually look at their financials, but we're able to basically summarize in, how do I say? So it's kind of like horoscopes of companies. So according to how their money's been flowing like in and out of their companies, we basically work out, okay, this company, they look like they're not really making much and they're not really handling their money well. So it's a no. Or this company, they could improve on certain things, their sales, for example, or reducing their costs or something. So from there, we kind of like just analyze their figures and their financials and then just see what's worth our time and what isn't, and who
Mm.
needs working on and who doesn't.
Yeah, no, that's pretty interesting. So you're kind of like doing forecasts on like how the companies you guys have invested in, how it's performing basically to see if you guys should maybe invest more in the company or maybe you should kind of like, scale back your resources from helping that company kind of thing because it may not necessarily be a good investment in the long run.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
if there's any internal issues within the actual company, say if we feel like the CFO, so the chief financial officer of that company, is really mishandling the money that we're basically investing in, we can actually choose to have a new CFO. So we would basically be involved in the process of hiring and placing a new CFO in that company according to their morals and their strategic decisions or plans that they have for that company. So we basically just see, okay, cool, you're going to look after this company like it's your baby and it's going to be worth our money. So yeah.
Mm. And I guess like is the reason why like you guys are able to make such big decisions because like when you actually invest in these companies, you own like a significant amount of the company basically. So then
Yeah.
you kind of make the decisions. Is that how it works then?
Yeah, that's how it works. Yeah. And
Nice, nice.
yeah.
Yeah, then. Sorry, I'm just like I'm asking questions because I'm trying to tease out like a bunch of information because I know you don't want to kind of like get into all the jargon and stuff, but at the same time,
Yeah.
I think it would be useful for people to get further context. And then another thing you said as well is that you kind of like assess your personality. And I think going into venture capital, you kind of realize that I don't want to be the person that's necessarily like looking for all these companies to invest in. I kind of, I'm a bit of an introvert kind of thing. I kind of want to be to myself and just crunch the numbers, but at the same time, I still want like something that's intellectual. So would you say that, working as a financial analyst is like perfect for someone that's a bit of an introvert kind of thing? Is that what you would say?
Yeah, definitely. Because, for example, there's people that work in investor relations or fundraising. So fundraising is essentially when you're going out to basically get the money to bring into the big pot, which we have called the fund. And usually people like that are extroverts because they're people persons. So they like socializing and they like different personalities, because especially people that have money, sometimes you need a certain personality type to be able to deal with them. And with me, I feel like I kind of learned that from working in retail as well, because while I was in uni, I was working part-time. So I kind of figured out I don't really like or enjoy.
You don't like people.
Yeah, it's like in a sense, I'm just like, okay, people are just, yeah. So I realized, I like numbers, I like working behind the scenes, I like organizing things, like I find satisfaction in problem solving as well. So if there's any queries or last minute tasks that needs to be done, I'm usually the person that will just get all the information, sort it all out, and then be able to present it back in a way that makes sense or provides a summary or a report or an answer to a question that they're looking for. So
Yeah, and I think like the point you kind of made about like, really like assessing your personality before actually picking what you wanted to do for a job is really important. I actually made a video about this the other day because I think a lot of people like glamorize like all the flashy roles, right? And all the front office roles and the like, sexy roles, but then like really and truly don't really have the actual skill set or the personality to like kind of like do those roles. And it's kind of those things where you just need to kind of reflect and be like, no, let me actually work towards my strengths, like let me work towards like what I'm good at. Because then if you end up trying to like be who you're not just to get like these flashy roles kind of thing, number one, you might not do it well, or even if you do get it, you might actually not enjoy it kind of thing. So it's always important to just kind of play to your skill set, right? So I think that's like an important thing that you kind of just like said. But we'll move on to the next slide.
Yeah, so transitioning into venture capital, and I put a quote there: when there's a will, there's a way, because I said, I don't care if I don't have all those internships on my CV. I don't care if I don't have the networks. Well, I had some networks, but not like the big names in basically the industry. I just said, I don't care. I'm going to find a way to get into venture capital. Yeah, so these are the things that I did. So I knew I had no experience in financial services. So I was like, do you know what? Let me upskill at this time, because at least in an interview is something that I can present like, hey, I have the skills needed for this job role. And I know that in your job description and in the general role, like in the general descriptions for this role, they need these skills. So basically did a financial analyst course, completed that in a month. And yeah, I was looking on platforms for these available roles, LinkedIn, eFinancial Careers, and I used recruiters. LinkedIn is a really powerful tool. So what I used was both LinkedIn and recruiters, because so there was 2 roles which I ended up getting like after my search, and one of them I used LinkedIn for, and I actually reached out to the in-house recruiter for that role to really like stand out against other candidates. And then the other one I used the recruiter because obviously they had worked with the company and they had that relationship, so they could kind of tell you like, this is what they're looking for, this is what they want. And lack of interviewing skills. So because I had been in my first role for 3 years, I had obviously lost the skill of interviewing. So what I would do is watch YouTube videos and practice from like real interviews, which I had. So I had quite a lot of interviews. I think I had like 10 interviews in total. So all the practice I got from those interviews kind of applied what feedback I got or what I thought I should have done better on, applied them. And then also got advice from mentors. So what they think I should basically be selling to the employer on things that I should kind of like hold back on or are irrelevant. So yeah. So I had a lack of technical skills testing. One thing about the interview process was that not only was I revising for my exams, was that they were actually throwing technical tests at me. And it's like all good when you get through to the second stage, whatever, but they'll be like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna lie, you need to really see you're not all talk. So what I did, I practiced numerical and verbal reasoning practice tests because they love to give that. And yeah, so the more practice, the better you get and better chances of passing those tests. So application and interview tips when applying, like I said, which is what helps me to get a job offer, was reaching out to the internal recruiters of the job posting to stand out, because I feel like they like people that have balls to do things. So if you're telling them like, hey, yeah, I've applied like everybody else, but here's why you should hire me, they kind of like that. And in a sense, you're kind of making their job easier, because, you know, you're basically putting yourself on a plate to them. And one useful thing which I did was adjusting the skills on my CV to match the job description. So it's, don't lie about your skills, but say if a job description says we want them to be really good at Excel, we want them to be really organized, or we want them to do this and that and this and that, and you know you've done that, put those skills at the top of the list, because they know what they're looking for. So if they see it stand out on your CV, like from the top, it's just like, okay, tick, 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 better chance to get called in for an interview. Also practicing your interview skills and confidence with a friend, family, or mentor. So you can kind of like role play, because they can be a bit scary, these interviews. Sometimes the people are quite casual, so they'll say to you, oh yeah, this is just going to be a casual interview just to see if you're a good fit or not. So just kind of being able to like present yourself professionally, but also getting to the point, and also having that personality as well, because they do like some personality, I've noticed. So use the people around you to practice your interview skills. Rejection. It's annoying getting those unfortunately emails. It's annoying, and it can actually, yeah, it hurts sometimes, especially when you think, oh yeah, I've definitely bagged it. But one thing I've definitely learned from all the jobs that I've gotten is redirection, because the job that you do end up getting is so fitting that you're even thankful that you got rejected for the previous roles or whatever. So never take it personally. Never say, is it because I'm this, is it because I'm that, or whatever. Like, the game is the game, keep it moving all the time. And always do your research on the company and the job role. It's one thing knowing the company, like, oh yeah, you did this in 2018, you did that, or whatever. But also the job role, they need to know that you know what you're coming to do in this job. Is, yeah, because you can get caught out sometimes.
Yeah, Julia, I just want to go back to the previous slide because I actually had a few discussion points, right?
Yeah.
So specifically, like when you talked about this financial analyst course, was it a course that you had to pay for, or like, you had
Yeah.
this kind of thing? Yeah, so I think it would be useful to kind of like talk through the fact that you actually had to like, pay for some extra like, upskilling as well, which again, in the grand scheme of things was probably not that much in comparison to how much you're earning. So it's kind of like it's a small sacrifice for like a greater reward kind of thing. So maybe you could just talk through that.
Yeah, I definitely counted it as investing in myself. I even got it at a really good time, because the retail price for that course is usually £60 if I'm not wrong, but I bought it for £15 because they had a sale. So it was just like, what is that compared to what I earn? So it was
Mm,
just like literally a very small sacrifice that actually did end up helping me
mhm.
stand out with the technical test that this job in venture capital basically threw at me. Stephen knows because I showed it to him and he was like, whoa, but
Yeah, we can
it
talk
was,
about that process in a second actually, but yeah.
yeah, yeah. So the skills that they basically, I basically learned from the financial analyst course, I was really able to apply it to the technical test and to my role now. So
And I think as well, like employers like really like rate the fact that, oh, you actually took initiative to go and pay for a course just to get this job kind of thing. It's kind of like a wow, like, that's dedication kind of thing, right? So I
yeah,
think yeah, it's important you guys save up some of your money from student finance and just put that towards, some sort of upskilling as well. Because again, I can't stress this enough. What you learn in university, like as much as like it may be relevant to a certain extent, like at the end of the day, like it's always important to just always continually upskill kind of thing, right? So yeah, I just wanted to kind of cover that point as well. And then another thing as well that I wanted to cover as well, Julie, is that you mentioned that you had actually reached out to like a recruiter on LinkedIn, right? And again,
mhm,
like, for someone that's an introvert, like that's super interesting that you were like, oh, I'm still gonna do this anyway. So yeah, maybe kind of talk to that effect, like what motivated you to just be like, okay, I'm gonna put my introvert thing aside and just try and like, reach
yeah.
out to people as much as I can.
Yeah, I actually have a little story with that, because it's just crazy, because sometimes pride can be your worst enemy. So when I found the job role, I think it was on eFinancial Careers. Because I'm a bit of a stalker sometimes. So I was like, okay, let me track down the people that actually work in this company because I want this job. I was like, it's perfect for me. The company was called PIMCO. So it's a very, very big asset management company. So I was like, I don't care. I want this job. Like, I'm going to go for it. I'm that type of person. When I want something, I'm not stopping. Like, so I basically found somebody who was working as a recruiter for PIMCO, a young Black girl as well. So I had messaged her and I was like, hey, I basically applied for this role, which I saw was available. And I even mentioned the fact that I've taken a financial analyst course and the skills that I've gained match the skills that you're looking for. Definitely ready to apply it to this job. And, just kind of like lotioning them before. So
Mm.
then afterwards, she had actually messaged me back and said, hey, I actually don't work here anymore. Sorry, my LinkedIn's not up to date, but I can give you the contacts for the people that work in recruitment. So she gave me two people. And then I was kind of like, who do I reach out to? So I just reached out to one of them, which was a lady. And then I messaged her and I was like, hey, basically kind of the same thing that I messaged the girl. And I said, she redirected me to you. And she was like, oh my gosh, it's so perfect that you actually reached out to me because I'm the person that's looking after this role. So before you knew it, we were on the phone the next day. And I think because she really liked that, I feel like she was vouching for me behind the scenes because the process was smooth. She kind of like carried me along the process. And obviously I had to play my part, doing research and interview skills, just applying everything that I had learned from the whole process of like trying to get a new job. So definitely helped. And we kept in close contact like throughout the whole process. And yeah, ended up getting the job offer. So that's when I realized, okay, let me stop being shy sometimes and actually reach out to people for help when I feel like I needed it. So definitely
Mm.
that's off stepping out your comfort zone.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's so important to kind of mention that because I think sometimes our perception when you're like a student is kind of like, oh, I'm just going to apply for these jobs and they're going to get back to me because that's what's supposed to happen, right? But, sometimes it takes like going the extra mile because through that story you've just explained, like, see how many people you had to kind of get through just to get to the person kind of thing, right? But if you didn't do that, you wouldn't have even been in a position to actually like, get to the interview and then eventually get the job kind of thing. So
Yeah,
sometimes it does take a bit of grafting to, actually come out of your comfort zone. LinkedIn is there to reach out to people, start reaching out to these people and stuff and just really be proactive, like ultimately, like, right. And I think because I always get a lot of messages like, oh, I'm an introvert, so how am I supposed to do this? I'm not going to lie to you. When you get into the world of work, as much as you're an introvert, you still need to interact with people to a
mhm.
certain extent. So with that being said, you still have to kind of get out of your comfort zone from time to time, right? But yeah, I kind of just wanted to talk through that. I can see someone in the chat actually said the course that you mentioned is still 15.99 for 5 hours, so people should take advantage if they're interested. So that's really good, man. Thank you, Mikel. I think that's how you pronounce your name. I'm so sorry if
Yeah,
I butchered it, but no, that's really good, man. So yeah, you guys heard, if you're interested in like genuinely like upskilling from a financial analyst perspective as well, because I think, Julia, correct me if I'm wrong, but you as a financial analyst, you can essentially be a financial analyst in any practice, right? It doesn't
yeah.
have to just be like
Mhm.
to venture capital, just that in the context of what you do, you just happen to be a financial analyst in like a venture capital firm, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, if you guys like are interested in kind of pursuing a path down like the financial analyst route, then I would say yeah, take advantage of that course as soon as possible, kind of thing. Another question that someone asked was how does venture capital differ from private equity? And I kind of have my views on this one because I've kind of worked in a bit of both kind of things, so I can cover it if you want.
yeah, yeah, you can, yeah.
Yeah. So I think what I would say is that venture capital is actually kind of like a subcategory of private equity. So to put it in simple terms, basically, the way private equity works is literally the same as venture capital. It's all about like an investment firm basically investing in a business, right? Acting as an investor and investing in a business and taking like a majority ownership. Now, the difference between venture capital and private equity is that with private equity, they tend to invest in like a lot more mature businesses. So businesses that have been operating for time kind of thing. It's guaranteed that they're a good business, they have sufficient cash flows and it's genuinely like a good business. And they're just investing in it to grow it as much as possible and sell it to somewhere else. Whereas like with venture capital, sometimes they're just investing in an idea. Like they're trying to invest in like the next big thing, like the next big Uber, the next Facebook. So it's very like, they're investing in companies at a very, very early stage. So you'd kind of say they're like immature companies in that respect. Whereas like with private equity, they tend to be investing in a lot more mature businesses. So it kind of makes sense that Julia's firm, they're investing in tech because tech is continually evolving. And there are a lot of people like with tech companies every single day, right? So Julia, I don't know if you want to speak to that or correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah.
No, definitely. Like there's so many, well, not so many, there's a few employees, for example, that have had their own ideas and they've kind of left my company, well, my venture capital, because of those ideas. And the company's basically been like, yeah, don't go anywhere because we're going to invest in your idea. And so they have the resources to invest. Literally, as Steven said, an idea, an early stage company. So it's like, you know, you've been popping for a while and now, you know, you need the funds, I guess, to grow further. So yeah.
Mhm. Nice. Another person asked, you know, like talk us through like a typical day as an actual financial analyst. Like, you know, what are you doing on a day to day basically, like, you know, when you go into work type thing?
Okay, yeah. So when I go into work, not every day is the same. That's one thing that I really enjoy. When I go into work, there would always be some kind of meeting in the beginning of the day, and it would be with my team with another team. So it would be like my team with the investor reporting team, or my team with the fund accounting team, or my team with operations. So we'd always liaise with people in different departments because sometimes they'll need something from us, sometimes we'll need something from them, or if there's a problem that we need to basically help out with. So there's always that communication going on. And basically, I would basically plan out my days. So if there's a project that I need to be working on, and I basically have my bits that I need to hand in, I would kind of plan my day according to that, which has priority and which doesn't. Also, where I sit in the office, I'm always near the analysts as well. So if they ever need help with basically financial modeling, assessing their KPIs, just looking at anything that they might not necessarily understand the way I do or the way I see it, always help them out with that. And yeah, just a lot of Excel working, just a lot of Excel working.
And
Like,
when you say analyst, are you referring to like the investment analyst? So the people
yes,
actually like looking for the companies to invest in basically.
yeah, and then we also have to basically give them the calculations of how much the investments have grown by. So we give those to the investor relations team. So they're like the extroverted people that deal with the investors directly. So
Mm.
they have to give them a report. So my team and the fund accounting team as well, and the investor reporting team, we collaborate basically on a monthly basis to be able to give a report to these investors, to tell them like, hey, okay, this is what has happened in Q1 or Q2 or in this month, this is what's happened, this is what's gone bad, like always keeping that communication up and accurate.
And it sounds like your role is really broad because you're kind of supporting everyone basically. Like there's so
Yeah,
many people in the company demanding a lot of stuff from you. And I think it's super interesting that the investment analysts, the people actually looking for the investments actually come to you like, yo, I don't really understand like this financial model that I've done kind of thing. Can you kind of
yeah.
help me? So that's like super interesting as well. Like I never actually knew that. Someone asked, well, Mikkel asked, do you need the ACA or ACCA or are other qualifications like the CISI corporate finance qualifications still relevant? So I think we'll answer that one first, and then he asked a bunch of other questions as well. But yeah.
Yeah. So ACCA definitely will help because nowadays with ACCA, it covers like a whole, it's 13 exams and it covers a lot. It covers law, covers financial management, so valuation of investments, covers performance management. So you'll basically be able to of how to assess performance of the company or division in a company. You learn tax, audit, so it covers a whole range of things, and they like people to basically have had dabbled and dabbled in those different kind of areas. And yeah, so nowadays a lot of financial analysts, they do ask for either part qualified or on your way to being qualified. And if you want the big boy roles with a lot of money, yeah, ACCA are definitely needed.
Nice, nice. Okay then. No, thank you for that context, Julia. Um, and then another question I was asked, and I was actually going to ask this as well, like, you know, what other technical skills would you suggest learning before applying? Like, right? So it sounds like again, you have exposure to all these different teams and they require a lot from you kind of thing. But what are the kind of like specific technicals that you feel like you need to learn before trying to like venture down this route?
I think mastering Excel definitely helps because there's people that are like, oh, like this isn't working or that's not working or whatever. So you're always able to help out. And with Excel, there's just so many shortcuts that you can take for your analysis to basically provide calculations in a report. So definitely Excel skills, software skills as well. So if you're going to be doing accounting, definitely knowing how to use the softwares, but those are kind of skills that you learn on the job and that you do get better at, because the more quicker you learn things, you learn basically shortcuts on how to basically do it.
Mm.
And other technical skills, yeah, mainly Excel, PowerPoint as well. So kind of like just the Microsoft Office package skills, and also just the soft skills, just interpersonal skills, definitely working as a team with people. Because yeah, especially if you're an introvert, you do need to be able to learn how to work in a team and how to communicate with different people. Because if you're always in your corner, in a sense, it doesn't really help you and you don't really get involved in other projects. So what I do, I'll just basically just hand myself out, be like, if you need help with this, if you need help with that, I can get involved. And it kind of helps me with my shyness that I once had, just putting myself out there, because you definitely do need it.
No, that's fair. And I guess, like, do you have like an element of imposter syndrome? Because you're saying you're putting yourself out there kind of thing, and you're like relatively junior, right? So aren't you scared sometimes that, right, I'm putting myself out there, I might not actually be able to know like what they're asking me to do kind of thing? Do you ever get that feeling?
Sometimes I do get that feeling, but sometimes you just have to be shameless. And because I'm a Christian, I always believe that God's actually put me here for a reason. And, for example, I didn't go to the top universities and I didn't work at the big four when I started my career, but I'm in the same rooms as the people that did. So that kind of like, it's okay. It's just like, okay, cool. I'm somebody with sense. I know what I'm talking about. I know my experience, and, so it kind of helps. Just confidence definitely helps with imposter syndrome, because
Mhm.
that can be your biggest enemy sometimes.
Yeah, and I think it's important, like what you said as well, like just knowing that you're here for a reason, kind of thing. If you've passed these rigorous stages to get to that job,
Yeah.
they know that you're capable of, like, knowing what you do, kind of thing. So it's really important to just recognize that. Are you okay for us to share your LinkedIn with people? Like, people want to connect
Yeah.
with you on LinkedIn as
Yeah,
well.
let me type my name on here in case.
Yeah, I was gonna dig out the link and stuff, but because I'm sharing my screen, it's a bit complicated. But yeah, Julia will like put her full name there, so you guys can kind of like find her, or you can just type Julia Kinkela, like Target Global, and you'll be able to find her, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Another person asked, could you speak a little on the other teams in venture capital and the type of people that are normally in them? So I know you kind of been referencing like the investor relations team, the fund accountants, so maybe talk through that as well, the personalities that you meet. But yeah.
Yeah. So what I've definitely noticed is that the investor relations team are usually more extroverted people, not just extroverted people, people that have like kind of a good network as well,
Mm.
because they have that relation with them. So it makes sense to go into that job with them. And then the fundraising team as well. So what they do a lot is that they will go out literally on networking lunches, just dinners and events and all of that to basically just network with and meet investors potentially. And there's also the investment analysts, and what they kind of do is, I kind of call it sales in a sense, because they will look through like long list of investors and basically call them and sell these companies to them. Well, essentially it's like we're selling money to these people. So they're the type of people that kind of work there, people that are kind of good at selling things, they would work in those teams. There's obviously the legal teams that basically do the laws and basically keeping everybody out of trouble. In my team as well, the corporate finance team, it's a mix. There are some people that are introverts, and some people that are quite stern, because as an accountant, you do become impatient with people when you have deadlines to meet and stuff like that. So you learn to be more stern with people, and yeah, just a lots of different personality types. I don't think you can define one personality type to
Across the board, kind of
department.
thing.
Yeah, there's always a mix, but the common patterns are just what I described.
And just to provide a bit of context, right? So like the investor relations and fundraising team, they're the one effectively like looking for investors to basically invest a bunch of money into like your investment firm, right? So then you guys
Yeah,
can use that money to go and invest in all these good companies and then basically give those investors back a return, right?
yeah.
And then like yeah, the legal team, they're like your typical back office kind of thing. They're keeping
Mhm.
everyone out of trouble. And then your investment analysts are the ones like, actually looking for these companies to invest in, basically, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I hope that kind of answers your question. Another person asked, what was your job role at PIMCO? As well. I think I remember, but yeah, like if you could talk through that.
Yeah, so the job role which I applied for at PIMCO was also financial analyst. Stephen was actually, we were in touch during that whole application process because I basically had to choose between PIMCO and Target Global. And PIMCO was nice because obviously it looks good on your CV and it's a massive asset management company. But with the way times have gone nowadays, you kind of have to assess what's the pros and cons of each company. So with me, I kind of just preferred the venture capital company because I knew that I'd be able to make a lot more of an impact at that company with the job role. Whereas with an already established for years company, I kind of felt like I wouldn't really be able to. I would have to work way harder. So
No,
yeah,
that's interesting actually, because I never even thought about that. Because obviously PIMCO is like a big asset manager; they've been around for a while, kind of thing. Whereas
yeah.
like Target Global was fairly new, so it's like
Mhm.
a bit fresher as well, smaller, nimbler team. And I think it's important to kind of mention that because again, when you're a student, you're kind of thinking, I want to go work in the big companies, but you can get drowned out in those companies and you won't make an impact because you're just one in a million basically, right? Whereas like if you work in a smaller company, you get exposed to a lot of things, kind of thing. So that's pretty interesting. Someone asked,
What a
what has been like, the highlight of working at a European VC firm, right? Because I know like when we started talking and stuff and you were doing a lot, like so talk to us about that.
when I started working, it was just like, oh wow, like it has its perks. I think within a month of working with the company, I was traveling. So we have an office in Germany, and I was able to travel out to Germany and work over there with the team over there. And it's really nice because your food is paid for, like they feed you well. When I joined the company, I put on a lot of weight because they feed you well. They have a lot of fun. For example, next month we're going on a company offsite, so it's kind of like a trip slash work trip, like fun and work to Barcelona. So it's like it's a work hard, play hard kind of environment. So it's like you work hard and then you get kind of noticed for your work. So they have like promotion days where if somebody gets promoted, they'll be celebrated in their office with treats and everything. So yeah, I think the highlights are definitely the fun days. So it's not always like you just go to your 9 to 5 and go home and you do hard work and you don't get recognized. You definitely do get recognized. You get to travel,
Mm,
go to events and stuff.
And then speaking on like, work hard, play hard, then like, what are the working hours like in VC? And maybe talk through some of the low lights, like, times where it's just like, okay, this is a lot kind of thing.
Yeah, so yeah, as David asked, what's the working hours like? My contracted hours are usually either 9 to 5 or 10 to 6, so I can choose. So we have the option to basically avoid rush hour and come in, but it can vary because there's days where I've worked until like 9 p.m. There's days where I've worked past 9 p.m. and I still have to start at 10 a.m. the next day. So it can really vary with like the busier periods and the last minute deadlines. I've been thrown deadlines at me literally at 5:30 for the same evening to be due. So you just kind of have to be able to give up some of your personal time. They don't take the piss. It's not like they'll say, oh, we want you to work on this whole weekend on this project. No, but just be prepared to kind of dedicate more of your time at certain periods towards completing your job and completing deadlines, because otherwise you'll have somebody to answer to the next day.
And what like this is a good question. What do you think like, your next steps in the company would be? And maybe talk through kind of like, typical progression paths, right? For
Yeah.
a financial analyst, like right, working in VC.
Yeah. Next step wise, this is something that's always like we discuss in, for example, my one-to-ones with the vice president of finance, my line manager, what I would like to be doing. My goal was to come here make an impact, fix what needs to be fixed, improve what needs to be improved, and just innovate and also take in, like always learn. Because my company is kind of global, we're all spread out across London, Germany, Israel, Cayman Islands. We're opening an office in Dubai, I think, and Cyprus.
Sounds like a lot of travel opportunities pending.
Yeah, a lot of travel opportunities pending. So I'm kind of like, for the corporate finance team, I'm the London representative. So the next step for me is basically just being fully in charge. Oh, and Greece, sorry, because my line manager is based in Greece. So being the main person dealing with the London entity, because we have quite a few entities. So just taking charge of that, eventually having my own team to improve processes and continue, because the company is still growing, so they're hiring more people. So of course, we'll be needed a lot more. And career-wise, my main goal was to become a CFO, well, is to become a CFO one day. So just gathering up all the knowledge that I can, and also remain in financial services industry because I really do enjoy it.
Nice, nice. Nice. Wow, there's another question that come in. I actually wanted to ask a question, but obviously the people are priority. When you started your role after university, how much was expected of you by the company and was training provided? So yeah, this is maybe kind of backtracking to actually when you were working in corporate finance. And then yeah, you can kind of talk through your experience in like venture capital as well now. But yeah.
Yeah, when I started my role after uni, I did kind of get scared, like, oh my gosh, what if they throw me in there? And it's like, I don't know, like, blah, blah, blah. And I was always like, oh, they're going to fire me because I don't know. Oh, sorry, just getting a call. So 2 seconds. Sorry about that, guys.
Oh, no, Julia's gonna have to go soon, guys. That's
I'm
work.
gonna have to go soon. That's work calling.
Yeah, we'll just wrap up the questions. But yeah, if you just talk through that quickly and then yeah, we can
Yeah.
kind of wrap
So
up.
I always thought, that they would, I'd get in trouble because I don't know things, but they always had grace, definitely have grace that, you're starting out and they know how it feels to be somebody small in the game. So a lot of training, definitely. You do learn how to use the processes. They're very graceful if you don't know like Excel, if you don't know the softwares or anything, and they're very, very supportive. That's one thing that I will say.
Nice, nice. Eliakim has one more question. He said he wanted to pop on camera to ask that. Is that all right, Julia?
Yes, I'll have to go quite soon though. But
Yeah,
yeah.
no problem. Just quickly, Eliakim, if you have a moment.
Yeah.
We'll be quick, guys.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Eliakim.
Yeah, hi. My name is Elikum, and I'm studying engineering currently at university, and I have completed a few insight and work experience events, but I feel like I don't have enough. So what advice, so it's a question for both of you, what advice would you give to someone who has a non-financial background, who's trying to get into, to finance?
Yeah, Julia, you can cover this one quickly and then go in and I can cover the rest.
Yeah, so definitely skills. Just build up whatever skills that you can. So the job roles, what skills you see that they ask for quite commonly, definitely build up on those. Also, whatever analytical skills you learn in uni, you can always, I feel like they're very transferable. So anything that you learned, that you had to use any type of analytical skills that you'll be able to apply, just mention it. Even if you don't know if you're going to be able to apply it or not, just always mention it to the recruiters and the job roles, because very transferable and a lot of skills you do learn on the job.
Nice. Now, thank you so much, Julia. We're gonna have to leave her now because the job is.
Oh, sorry, I have to go.
I can answer the rest of the questions as well. Just like, kind of brief you guys on what we're doing and beyond education as well. So if you guys can stick around. But thank you so much, Julia, for everything. And yeah, hopefully you guys can kind of connect with her as well.
Yeah, definitely add me on LinkedIn. If you have any other questions, always message me. I'm there to help.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Julia. Like, really appreciate it. Eliakim, just to kind of cover that question as well, I think you can never go to too much insight events, to be honest. Like, I think you can always try and like double down on getting your face in a lot of like these firms, like organizing these events as well. Because the more your face is there kind of thing, the more they recognize who you are. So I think it's really important to do that. But just to kind of wrap up, I just wanted to really talk to you guys about like, what Beyond Education is, what we actually do and how we can help you guys basically. So Beyond Education is a platform dedicated to helping students predominantly from non-Russell Group universities access early career opportunities at corporate institutions. And that's not to say that we're discriminating against Russell Groups. We're just trying to level the playing field because it's clear that a lot of firms are still like having a bias towards recruiting from Russell Group University. So, we're really trying to double down on our efforts to help the more disadvantaged group and really level the playing field. And, the way we do that is, our website has a bunch of free career resources that you can access. So if you go on our website, you can access a bunch of CVs from actual industry professionals. There are a bunch of blogs there that can help you guys. And yeah, just a whole range of like resources basically. And obviously you can get the drop on all these insight events that we're doing as well if you're a member of the website. We also have career content across like our Instagram page, LinkedIn and TikTok. And we have insights from actual industry professionals via blogs as well. So I would definitely say you guys should sign up to that. I'll put the link just in the chat here kind of thing so you guys can kind of check it out. But it's literally simple. It's just www.beyondeducation.uk and you can like sign up as a member and get all of that. And then yeah, like what I would also say as well is that if anyone kind of needs help kind of thing, like we're always trying to connect you guys to like the professionals within our network kind of thing. So if you drop us an email at info@beyondeducation.uk, we'll connect you to someone as well. And as I said, we have a bunch of insight events from now till the end of the year kind of thing. So again, if you sign up to our website, you will be the first to kind of know like when those insight events are coming kind of thing, and you can just be plugged in and like make sure that you get access to it. And I can see that Temi, you asked the question similar to the previous one, where would you recommend where I can get specific industry experience as a grad? I would say there are a lot of employers that like are like actively like always like hiring entry level grads, a lot more than you actually think. I think the only thing is that typically like a lot of grads tend to just look at the big names. But I think if you go on LinkedIn and, if you have a rough idea of like what exactly you want to get into kind of thing and just type that role on LinkedIn, you'll see like a whole suite of entry level applications. Sometimes you have to really go through like, the search bar and like, just really go through all the various different pages. But yeah, there are a lot of them there, to be honest. So it's just a matter of like kind of digging and going through them, to be honest. And obviously connecting with professionals like Julia as well and, kind of being informed on the industry. That's really good as well kind of thing, because then if there are any opportunities within her organization, she can help you guys out as well. But yeah, man, that's pretty much it for this webinar. Thank you guys all so much for like engaging, putting your questions in. And yeah, man, just be sure to follow Beyond Education and sign up to our website as our member so you can get more of these resources and opportunities. But I'll leave you guys all to it. And